First, we go to the Hamilton County Common Pleas Court in Cincinnati, Ohio. Standing in the hallway outside the courtroom is Cassandra Jackson. She's here today seeking a protection order, often sought by domestic violence victims. Unfortunately, a court official is telling her that she missed the deadline and will have to come back. Jackson, a working mother, grows increasingly frustrated. The argument's loud enough to be heard in the nearby courtroom. So loud that Magistrate Judge Michael Bachman, who's presiding in the courtroom on the other side of these doors, could not hear an attorney question a witness. Jackson continues to plead her case to the man in the hallway, but is denied. Jackson continues arguing before finally storming off. But Judge Bachman is unsatisfied and takes matters into his own hands. About 10 seconds after Jackson walks away, Bachman leaves the bench, chasing her down the hall. He catches up to Jackson at the elevators and orders her back to his courtroom. What happens next is critical to the eventual outcome of this story. As they head toward the court, Jackson tries to turn down a hallway. That's when Bachman grabs Jackson's shoulder. Even as they enter the courtroom, Bachman still does not remove his hand. Keep in mind, Jackson's in court today to file for a restraining order to protect herself and her children from an allegedly abusive relationship. Bachman orders Jackson into the jury box, then tells her she's about to be arrested for contempt of court. But the insensitive treatment continues from the rest of the court staff. 2 officers are brought in, and Jackson attempts to flee. Additional help's required to restrain Jackson. She resists, but is eventually removed from the court in handcuffs. The situation is taken to another level when Jackson's dragged to booking where formal charges are made. Officers handcuff Jackson to a chair as she continues to resist. After struggling with officers one more time, Jackson's strapped into a special chair and wheeled into holding, where she'll serve 2 days of a 10-day sentence after the presiding judge dropped the contempt charge and the rest of her sentence for good cause. After the footage goes public of Bachman chasing after Jackson and putting his hand on her, Jackson files a civil suit against Bachman, and the magistrate's told he must either resign or be fired. Bachman chose to resign. If Bachman needs to enter a Hamilton County courthouse in the future, he must now do so as a private citizen. We're in Greenup, Kentucky, where court is back in session after ringing in a new year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Well, same to you.
That's Judge Robert Conley. He's been on the bench for more than 20 years and appears to be happy to be starting another. First up, a probation revocation hearing.
Michael Ferner.
The defendant, Michael Ferner, owes more than $9,000 in overdue child support to his ex-wife. And according to his ex-wife's lawyer, he's failed to follow his court-ordered payment program.
So he's not made any payment in 2019. It just doesn't make any difference, Judge.
Didn't pay anything in the whole year?
Nothing in 2019.
It has been a rough year. I mean, I had 3 boys at home. My wife works full-time. We didn't have a babysitter.
After hearing the defendant's explanation, it's possible Judge Conley could give him a break to start the new year.
Can I ask you a question? What kind of person has 3 kids when you can't even take care of one?
My kids are grown. They're 21 and 19.
But they're living at home.
They
I
don't
don't
live with
understand.
their
You just said
mom or
you had
anything.
3 kids.
I think.
Yeah, I've got 3 little ones
There's
with my
5
wife.
kids, Judge. 5 kids. It's owed to the client. Judge, the order was $238 a month plus $50 toward arrearages.
Well, it changed the next time I come to court.
You know what? You just need to shut up. The more you talk, the more ridiculous you sound.
And just like that, the judge's New Year's cheer is out the window.
We're-
I'm sorry.
Send him to jail. Send him to jail. Go talk all you want over there, okay? Talk all you want over there.
As Michael Kerner's taken into custody, Judge Conley issues a stern directive to everyone in the courtroom.
When I'm talking, you better be listening. I only talk if I'm wanting you to know something. Don't try to talk over me. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. If I'm saying anything, you better be damn listening.
20 minutes later, he calls defendant Gary Willis forward. Unfortunately for Willis, he's also here today for failing to pay child support.
Willis, how come you aren't paying what you're supposed to pay?
I thought that I was paying it. I just missed a court date. I got caught up Thanksgiving and absolutely forgot.
What am I supposed to do? What does the victim in your case, the ones for money, I have to answer to them. They say, Judge, he doesn't pay. What are you doing about it, Judge? What are you doing? So do us both a favor and do what you're supposed to do.
That may be good advice, but it turns out Judge Conley's delivery of the message left something to be desired for the Kentucky Judicial Conduct Commission. Following the 2 cases, Conley received a public reprimand after an investigation into his, quote, intemperate conduct. Judge Robert Conley ultimately accepted the public reprimand, admitted his behavior was inappropriate, and issued a public apology. Next, we're in the 31st District Court in Hamtramck, Michigan, for a virtual hearing on a civil infraction. 5 months earlier, 72-year-old Burhan Chowdhury allowed the grass and weeds on his property to grow out of control, violating a local law against noxious weeds and vegetation. Chowdhury was undergoing treatment for lymph node cancer that left him too weak for yard work. His son, Shabir, who usually maintained the property for him, was out of the country when police issued the ticket. Shabir cleared the overgrowth when he returned to the U.S. Father and son are hoping for leniency today from Judge Alexis Krott, considering Chowdhury's medical condition and that it's his first offense.
All right, you have a ticket for failing to keep the fence, walkway, sidewalk, or alley free of weeds, trees, or other nuisance vegetation. It's a first offense civil infraction. You can plead responsible with an explanation, or not responsible.
I am a cancer patient, very old man, and I am a cancer patient. I was then very weak, and very weak. And this time of rainy season, I cannot look after this thing.
Chowdhury's labored breathing is apparent as he explains how his illness and the rainy weather affected his landscaping. But the judge refuses to cut him any slack.
You should be ashamed of yourself. If I could give you jail time on this, I would.
The judge is not feeling forgiving. Quite the opposite. She's talking about jail time for an elderly cancer patient for a minor civil infraction.
If I could give you jail time on this, I would. The fine is $100, pay it by February 1st. You've got to get that cleaned up. That is totally inappropriate.
Oh my God.
Chowdhury is stunned at the judge's outrage. So son Shabir steps in to reiterate his father's situation and to tell the judge that the weeds are already cleared.
Oh, okay. Is it, ma'am, forgivable because my father is currently sick and we cleaned that after?
You see that photo?
Yes.
I am very sick, man.
That is shameful. Shameful. The neighbors should not have to look at that. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yes, I am sorry.
You're going to jail.
Judge Crott closes the hearing with a threat to send Chowdhury to jail if he returns to her courtroom. The rant went viral within a week, with many reacting to Judge Crott's treatment of Chowdhury with disgust. An online petition calling for her removal from the bench has over 250,000 signatures. The judge released a statement apologizing for her behavior towards Chowdhury and reported herself to the Judicial Tenure Commission. The Hamtramck City Council later voted to censure Judge Crott. Chowdhury's $100 fine was paid 2 days after the hearing. Next, we're in Las Vegas, Nevada, for a child visitation hearing. Parents Wealthy and Rogerio Silva have been divorced for 3 years and share custody of their 12-year-old daughter, who lives full-time with her mother. Rogerio claims he's not getting his court-ordered visitation time, and making matters worse, his ex-wife claims his daughter doesn't want to spend time with him. But before getting to the matter at hand, Wealthy Silva airs some grievances of her own against her ex-husband.
He has not paid child support. It was November, December, and January that I did not get child support or alimony. Also, none of the medical or dental has been reimbursed, ever, not 1 penny of that.
Child support, if there are arrearages, and medical, if there are arrearages, you need to file a schedule of arrearages and a motion, and I will hear it at the appropriate time.
Judge Rena Hughes seems ready to move past the issues unrelated to visitation, but Wealthy Silva isn't finished.
Medical and dental was filed. I remember, I believe it was 5 court dates ago, and I have submitted receipts, proper receipts.
Keep your comments to yourself.
The focus then shifts back to visitation, as the judge attempts to schedule a dinner date for father and daughter the following week.
February the 6th, that's week 1, dinner night. What time?
Rather than providing the judge an answer, Rogerio's lawyer instead has a complaint.
It's more than a week away from now, and
I'm not taking argument right now. I have listened to this case ad infinitum. I am entering orders. I expect them to be followed. I'm trying to accommodate both parties. We're not going to do this on a whim and say within 2 days he's going to have dinner with her. Mom's going to tell her it's going to happen, and we're going to get prepared for it. Okay? What time?
Whatever's good for him. 5, 6.
What time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
But after the time is set, the child's mother has some major concerns.
And when she refuses to go, what am I to do? Because this is really not
We'll
good
be
for
here
the
on a
child.
motion to hold you in contempt.
Is she going to have to ride in a car with him?
Yes.
Wow. You really care about my child, don't you?
I want you to keep your mouth shut and sit down. I care about your child very much. You do not. Sit down and do not talk.
We need to have a trial.
There's no need for a trial.
Oh, there he is.
Finally, the tension-filled silence is broken by a threat from the judge.
If there is contempt, and if there is withholding of the child, we will have a trial. Do you understand me clearly? You will lose custody.
Two months later, following additional visitation issues, the parents are back in court, this time with their 12-year-old daughter. But after starting the hearing, Judge Hughes gives an unusual order, telling all the adults to leave the courtroom so she can speak to the child alone. Around the same time, cameras in the courtroom are switched off. 9 minutes later, with her father now back in the courtroom, Judge Hughes awards him temporary full custody, despite the child's wishes.
You don't understand. I love her. And I'm gonna miss her so much. Please don't do this to me.
I've made a decision for your best interest.
How do you know my best interest?
I'm a grown-up and you're a child.
When the girl continues to protest the decision,
Please. I don't want to be with him.
the judge threatens to send her to a children's shelter.
If you have any difficulties, we'll go to Child Haven. It's not fun in Child Haven. In fact, they put you in a holding cell, just like it would be jail.
At the same time, the girl's mother's not allowed to re-enter the courtroom and is charged with contempt for allegedly withholding visitation. But this custody fight was far from over. Following the hearing, the girl's mother filed a complaint with the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, alleging her and her daughter's civil rights were violated by Judge Hughes. In response, the commission ruled that Judge Hughes did in fact violate judicial code and due process by holding the mother in contempt and not allowing her to be heard during the hearing. She was also accused of awarding the father custody as a punitive measure against the child's mother. The commission issued a public remand of Judge Hughes, but the penalty would later be dropped following a successful appeal in the Nevada Supreme Court. Ultimately, the parents were awarded joint physical custody of their daughter.
304-001, State of Arizona versus Christopher Robert Lesniak.
We're in Maricopa County, Arizona, in the courtroom of Superior Court Commissioner Julie Newell. She's overseeing the arraignment of 50-year-old Christopher Lesniak, charged with aggravated assault. The victim, a man, isn't identified for privacy reasons and not present in court.
All right, does the state want to make a record?
No, Your Honor, no offer has officially been made yet.
As Commissioner Newell proceeds with the hearing, a woman from the gallery stands up, preparing to address the court.
Ma'am, please be seated. Please be seated.
I was going to make an announcement.
Please be seated. And you'll make an announcement only when the court allows you to do that. Thank you.
The woman the commissioner is yelling at is Sheila Madden, a lawyer for the victim. Madden, a former commissioner herself, previously worked with Newell, but Newell would later claim she didn't recognize her.
You'll make an announcement only when the court allows you to do that.
Despite her former colleague's terse statement, Madden has the right to be heard at court proceedings involving her client.
Sir, if you do bond out and fail to appear for your next court date, which is August 31st, a warrant could issue for your arrest and your trial could proceed in your absence. Understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
The rest of the hearing continues without interruption.
All right, good luck, sir.
But when it ends and Madden isn't called on, she again tries to address Commissioner Newell.
Judge, I wish to be heard.
Sir, ma'am, sit down, please.
I wish...
Ma'am, sit down! That's the last warning, otherwise get out of the courtroom. Leave the courtroom, or I will have you removed from the courtroom. I will have you removed. I will have you removed. Get out of the courtroom right now. Out of the courtroom right now. Get a deputy in here right now, please.
Despite the call for a deputy and the tongue lashing from Newell, Madden refuses to leave. And with the tension in the courtroom at its peak,
Judge, can I make a record?
The defense attorney steps in to try to simmer things down between the two former co-workers.
I'm sorry, but I've spoken with Sheila Madden. She represents the victim in connection with this case. I've worked with her, so she represents the victim. She was very professional in contacting me. She's a former judge. I hold her in high esteem just as I do you. So I don't want to be cut in the middle here, but
I'm not taking any comments with regards to the victim in this case. That is for a later hearing.
Perhaps sensing it was a no-win situation, or knowing a deputy is moments away from removing her, Madden makes a move for the exit. As for Commissioner Newell, she would never hear any comments in regard to the victim in the case, or any other. The following day, she resigned from her position and later received a public reprimand for her harsh and inappropriate courtroom demeanor.
I will have you removed from the courtroom.
Next, we head to Cleveland's Municipal Court, where Judge Pinky Carr is presiding. It's March 17, 2020, The country's in the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The person is not here, as I've noted all week. Corona, day 3.
Because of health risks, Cleveland's administrative court has issued an order that all hearings for defendants who are not in jail have been postponed. So why is Judge Carr's courtroom still open for all business?
Docket number 31, bond is set at $2,500.
It's a question on the mind of Assistant Public Defender Mark Jablonski.
Is the court having a docket tomorrow?
Oh yeah, nothing stopped for me. My cases go on.
Does that apply to jails only?
No, anyone that shows up. Not everybody watches the news. I actually had people yesterday. I had people today. Yeah, I'm not going to do that to people.
The judge's statement contradicts the administrative order regarding COVID-19, and Jablonski wants an explanation.
If we are able to get a hold of any of our clients who are scheduled for tomorrow who are not in jail, can we tell them to communicate?
No.
So the court's administrative order regarding continues?
I'm here. If people show up, I'm here. So no, don't call people and tell them not to show up. If they show up, I'm here.
But this judge isn't just allowing people to show up, she's punishing those who don't. In the preceding days, she'd issued several arrest warrants, which in court terminology is known as a capias.
Capias, bond is set at $5,000. If officer present, no defendant, capias will be issued.
Continuing his exchange regarding the order, Jablonski asked the judge about her position one last time.
Yeah, don't do that.
No concern?
Hi, for the 3rd time, I will be here. If people show up, I am here. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Jails.
Okay. Okay.
Minutes later, after 7 okays, Jablonski exits the courtroom. But Judge Carr, still apparently baffled by the attorney's question about postponing his client's hearings, discusses it with her staff.
I'm like, stop it. Not everybody watch the news. Wait, I'm gonna call him and tell him don't come. I'm sure he is. Look, idiot.
But soon after, when the local media hears about the arrest warrants, the judge denies it.
If people came to court and they were willing to risk their health, I figured I would return the favor. As far as issuing warrants for their arrest, absolutely untrue.
But when the video showing the opposite becomes public,
capias, bond is set at $10,000. Capias, bond is set at $5,000. You know what? I'll just put a straight capias on it.
The Ohio Supreme Court orders Judge Carr to temporarily stop presiding on all criminal or traffic cases. And an investigation by the Ohio Board of Professional Conduct is launched. Carr faces sanctions which could range from a warning to full disbarment. For our next story, we need to warn you. It contains images that may be disturbing for some viewers.
Sandra Twiggs.
Yes, ma'am.
We're at a bond hearing in Broward County, Florida, for a disturbing incident involving Judge Marilee Ehrlich.
Good morning, ma'am.
The defendant is 59-year-old Sandra Twiggs. She's charged with misdemeanor domestic battery against her 18-year-old daughter. Twigg relies on a wheelchair. She suffers from asthma, diabetes, and pulmonary disease.
I've read the probable cause affidavit.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to respond to each thing, but thank you.
At first, Judge Ehrlich is cordial toward the defendant. But that doesn't last.
Recent priors.
None.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm asking my courtroom staff.
Okay,
That's okay. I'll let you know each time I'm talking to you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You okay, ma'am?
Yes, I have asthma with COPD and I have a cough today.
Okay.
Okay.
Apparently, she and her adult daughter live in the same home, and they had a verbal altercation about who gets the fan.
The judge reviews the case, but there seems to be some information missing.
I don't know whose house this is. I don't know if she's in a position to evict. Excuse me, don't tell me.
The judge is beginning to show some frustration.
Does your daughter live with you, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. But she also
Excuse me, don't say anything beyond what I am asking you. Trust me, I am
telling you.
Ma'am.
So she lives with my daughter.
She lives with who?
She lives with me and she lives with my daughter in Miami.
Is that a different location?
Yes, in Coconut.
Excuse me.
The judge's impatience grows.
Ma'am, my one question to you, can someone there give her water as a kindness? Ma'am, do you need water? Just nod your head.
Yes, and I'm breathing treatment.
Ma'am, I am not here to talk to you about your breathing treatment.
I can't breathe.
Excuse me. Oh, Lord.
It's clear Twiggs is struggling, but the judge just gets increasingly irritated.
I'm not going to spend all day with her interrupting me. It's your
I'm
turn
done,
to
ma'am.
speak, counsel.
I'm sorry, I'm done.
Miss Twiggs, just stay silent for a moment.
Twiggs takes counsel's advice as Judge Ehrlich tries to finish up the hearing. But it's not enough to avoid Judge Ehrlich's wrath.
With you. Do you want her to stay in the home but have no harmful contact with you?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor. I need her.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Instead of bond, the judge offers Twiggs pretrial release.
State.
Yes, Your Honor.
Instead of money, do you want to be supervised by pretrial release?
Is that the right answer? Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Pretrial services.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, listen.
I don't know what to say.
You've already said too much. Listen, please.
Yes.
Once again, the judge berates the already rattled Twiggs.
Don't even say yes. Just listen. Can you hear me? Do you understand me?
Yes.
You have to check in with pretrial services by noon on Monday. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. You can return her.
Does that mean I can go home today?
An exasperated Judge Ehrlich seems relieved and the hearing's over, but the story does not end there. Just 3 days later, Sandra Twigg passed away in her sleep at home. After video of Twigg's appearance in court was made public, Ehrlich's treatment of the defendant came under intense scrutiny. Broward Chief Administrator Judge Jack Tudor asked Ehrlich not to return to work. While he didn't have the power to fire her, 2 days later, Ehrlich decided to announce an early retirement. Now to the Moore Justice Center in Brevard County, Florida.
2 charges, assault and resisting. You have the public,
where public defender Andrew Weinstock and his client are appearing before Judge John Murphy, whose voice you hear.
Public defender, what do you want to do?
Have they filed?
They have.
I'm not waiving.
All right, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do? I'm not waiving. You want to set it for trial, set it for trial.
Judge Murphy wants the defendant to waive his right to a speedy trial because the court's schedule's backed up. Weinstock isn't budging, and tensions are mounting.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now.
You know,
stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
sit
you know
down.
what? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back, and I'll just beat your ass.
They both head to the hallway behind the courtroom, just out of the view of the court's cameras. Believe it or not, they get into a physical altercation until Judge Murphy returns to the courtroom alone.
Thank you. I will catch my breath eventually. Man, I'm an old man.
Once Judge Murphy catches his breath, he continues with the rest of the hearings without Weinstock present.
Your choices, considering there's probably going to be a changeover in personnel, are setting it for trial June 9th, or if you were wanting to waive speedy, we would set it for July 15th.
I would like to get it done as fast as possible.
That doesn't help me.
The incident's investigated by the Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission, who charged Judge John Murphy with threatening to commit violence against an assistant public defender, engaging in a physical altercation with counsel, and resuming his docket while defendants were without counsel. The case eventually reaches the Florida Supreme Court, which orders the immediate suspension and permanent removal of Judge Murphy from his post. Andrew Weinstock later resigns from the public defender's office. Now to Durham, North Carolina, where Judge James Hill is presiding over a child custody case. For 3 long days, divorced parents Rashawna and Colin Morrison have been going at it, quite personally, in the courtroom.
I'm angry that his dad lives in Durham, can go on vacations with friends, take mistresses out to eat, take her on vacation, and can't seem to see his son.
The child's mother, Rashawna, claims her ex-husband abandoned their 3-year-old son and failed to pay child support. He argues she withheld his son from him and is seeking permanent custody. And the judge? Well, he isn't happy with either of them.
I could care less about it, I could. To tell you you're not important.
And he's about to let them know it.
But 2 parents, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. 2 parents can come in and act like such idiots. Y'all the one that crawled into bed and had sex and made that baby. He didn't ask to be born. But he was. What's important is and you don't need to see 2 adults acting like idiots. Did I say the word idiots?
He did. 3 times. Afterward, Judge Hill turns his attention towards Rashawna.
I have no doubt that you have withheld that little boy. Don't you be looking at me. You say one more word, you say one more word, you're gonna go to the Durham County bed and breakfast today. You say one more word. All right, Deputy Neville, she's got 24 hours to protect the court for running her back as soon as we get done. All right, you got 48 hours. You were saying again, she's got 48 hours now, Deputy.
Rashawna eventually quiets down, and finally, after 3 heated days in the courtroom, the judge delivers his decision.
Both parents are fit and proper persons to have custody of their minor child. I mean, joint custody.
Just take a minute. I can't do this. This is a disgrace. What you guys are doing, you need to let your son for 9 months. You're a drunk, you have a mistress, you have no one who doesn't do anything for anything. I take care of my baby system, and I get with you to be in your son's life whenever you feel like.
As officers try to restrain her, Morrison's brother, Sherrod Smith, comes forward from the back of the courtroom. At first, he tries to help by calming down his sister. But when that doesn't work, and Rashawna throws a bailiff a right hook, Big Brother's caught in the middle. Officers try to restrain him, but he sends one of them flying. Meanwhile, the judge makes a quick exit. As one deputy fights to gain control of Morrison, another puts her brother in handcuffs. And here come even more officers to shut things down. As Morrison and Smith are taken away, a 3rd person is also restrained in the back of the courtroom. Their mother.
You should have videoed this. You should have videoed this.
Smith and his mother are hit with 48 hours in jail for resisting a public officer, while Morrison receives 30 days. Morrison and her husband now have a joint custody agreement. Judge James Hill received a public reprimand by the North Carolina Supreme Court for improperly exercising his contempt powers, failing to maintain order and decorum, and making inappropriate comments. Next, we're in La Plata, Maryland for a jury selection. 25-year-old Delvon King is representing himself today on weapons charges after he was caught carrying a regulated firearm during a traffic stop. Just 3 months earlier, King was appearing at a preliminary hearing for the charges when he fled the courtroom and temporarily eluded police. Because of the fleeing incident, King is required to wear a remote control stun cuff on his leg while appearing in court. And now, as he reads a prepared argument, Stop. There seems to be another problem. At the bench is 72-year-old Robert Naley. The judge retired the previous year, but was called back part-time to hear cases. This hearing got off to a rocky start when King claimed to be a Moorish American, an offshoot of the anti-government sovereign citizen movement, and insisted his true name was not Delvon King. Now, as Judge Naley explains the jury selection process, King continues reading from his prepared argument, which questions the court's jurisdiction over him.
Stop. Mr. Sheriff, do it. Use it. All right, I'm going to take 5. Don't he calms down, and I'll be back. Yes, sir. 5 minutes.
In case you missed that, after King refuses to stop speaking,
Stop.
Judge Naley orders the courtroom deputy to activate the stun cuff on King's leg.
Mr. Sheriff, do it. Use it.
The deputy calmly approaches King, who doesn't appear to see him, and slides his chair out of the way. While King writhes in pain on the courtroom floor, Judge Naley decides to exit the courtroom and take a short break.
All right, I'm going to take 5 minutes. Yes, sir. 5 minutes.
Following the brief recess, Judge Naley resumed the hearing, and King continued representing himself. He later agreed to probation before judgment, meaning in his case, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail on the weapons charge, most of which he'd already served, and in return, no actual conviction would be added to his record. The same cannot be said for Judge Robert Naley. After the courtroom video was made public, the Maryland Court of Appeals immediately rescinded Naley's ability to hear cases.
All right.
He would also later be charged with a misdemeanor civil rights violation, to which he pleaded guilty, and was sentenced to a year probation, ordered to take anger management classes, and pay a $5,000 fine. Following his sentence, Robert Naley was banned from the bench for life. Next, we're in Newark, New Jersey, where Judge James Convery is overseeing a divorce hearing. On one side is Benjamin Taylor and his attorney, Yvette Ramos Alvarez. And on the other is his soon-to-be ex-wife. To establish Taylor's total yearly income, a copy of his Social Security earnings statement has been requested by his wife's attorney.
Now Ms. Kolsky comes back after everything was finished except for the Social Security earnings statements, which he doesn't have.
He gets his Social Security every year indicating.
The earnings statement.
He gets his earnings statement.
Okay.
He gets it. He gets it every year. So she asked for it. Why didn't he provide it?
He doesn't have it.
He threw it away?
I would presume he did.
Oh, come on.
As you can see, Judge Convery is not buying the dog ate my homework story. So he decides to do a quick courtroom poll to prove his point.
Don't you get it? I get it. You get it? You get it? Everybody gets it. Social Security sends it to your home every year.
Alvarez, however, disagrees, based on her own experience.
No, I don't get it. They sent it to my home 4 years ago. I haven't received it in the last 3.
This is the final moment before Judge Convery says something he'll regret.
Well, when did you become an illegal alien?
Judge?
Alvarez is taken aback by the judge's comment. Not only is she of Hispanic descent, but she's also the former president of the Hispanic Bar Association of New Jersey.
Judge, I am going to, that was a totally inappropriate comment.
I didn't mean it. Listen to me.
As Judge Convery tries to backpedal, Alvarez moves forward, right out the door. Then comes the awkward silence. Alvarez returned to the courtroom 10 minutes later, and Judge Convery apologized, but the damage had been done. Alvarez later filed a misconduct complaint against Judge Convery, which, along with other public complaints, led to a public reprimand by the New Jersey Supreme Court. Next, we're outside the Crawford County Courthouse in Knoxville, Georgia. 78-year-old Judge Carrie Hayes has just arrived for work. One of the cases on his docket today involves defendant Brian Keith Davis. He's facing a felony drug charge as well as 2 lesser charges. Inside the courtroom, away from cameras, Davis is asked to be released on his own recognizance. But when the judge instead sets bond at $8,500, Davis reportedly fires off a barrage of obscenities. The judge orders Davis to be removed from the courtroom, and it's captured on security camera. According to the judge, Davis shouts an insult on his way out. That's when Judge Hayes decides he's heard enough. He grabs Davis, who's cuffed and shackled by the shoulder. The judge then pushes Davis into the wall. Once the judge lets go, Davis quickly calls for help. He then has one final comment for the judge, reportedly saying, "If you touch me one more time, I'm gonna beat your ass." The judge stands his ground, still jawing at the defendant, and then makes his way back into the courtroom. Davis tries to get in the last word when a few deputies arrive on the scene. Davis is taken away as the judge tries to explain his actions. There were no criminal charges brought against Judge Hayes, but the state Supreme Court suspended him for 30 days without pay, and he'll be publicly reprimanded by a Superior Court judge. As for Davis, his charges are still pending. We're back in Vancouver, Washington, where a 16-year-old is in juvenile court after violating his probation. He's joined by his mother. Next to them is the court clerk. But noticeably absent is his attorney. As Judge John Woolley inquires about the lawyer's whereabouts, the teen addresses the court.
I would like to fight for myself and not have an attorney.
It appears this young defendant wants to play Perry Mason, but Judge Woolley doesn't necessarily think that's a good idea.
Oh, that's not a smart play. That's like going out onto the field with the New York Yankees and you've never even learned how to play baseball.
That's fine.
So I'm not going to do that. You're going to have an attorney assist you in this matter. I'm not going to let him fly solo and walk into a court of law and try to practice law when he hasn't even finished high school.
I just want to say I'm guilty. That's all. You just take what I get.
We're sending it over to Tuesday.
What Judge Woolley doesn't clarify is that he believes a juvenile can't legally plead guilty without an attorney present.
I'm not going to accept an admission at this time.
We're not getting to do what we want.
So put it on for Tuesday for either admit or deny, or for whether or not there'll be a replacement of the attorney.
So far, it looks like Judge Woolley's doing everything in his power to help this defendant. But when the teen continues to question him,
why can't I just admit today that?
The judge loses his temper.
Because I'm doing my job, sir. My job requires that I protect your constitutional rights, you as an American citizen. That's my charge. And if you're too stupid to know that what I'm trying to do is protect you, then let me spell it out for you. So step one is I bring the case back with an attorney. and then we talk.
Notice as the court clerk tries to signal to the teen to be quiet.
Because I'm doing my job, sir.
Then scores some brownie points with the boss by backing him up.
And our state Supreme Court has backed you up on that, didn't you?
They have. And I'm sure the U.S. Supreme would too.
And listen carefully as Mom expresses her dissatisfaction with the judge's choice of words.
The Supreme Court has backed you up on that, didn't you?
They have. And I'm sure the U.S. Supreme would too.
Okay, you're going to take this and you're going to have a seat. You're going to be back in court, actually.
Perhaps sensing the mood shift in the courtroom, Judge Woolley offers an apology.
And my apologies to everyone in this courtroom. I very rarely lose my temper.
If you want to call it that.
But when I do, it's usually because someone is too stupid to recognize that I'm trying to help them.
There are just a few issues with Judge Woolley's backhanded apology. One, he's just doubled down on calling the defendant stupid.
Which usually because someone is too stupid to recognize that I'm trying to help them.
And two,
I very rarely lose my temper.
Problem is, that's not entirely true. Over a 2.5-year period, Judge Woolley was cited for 4 separate incidents by the Washington State Commission on Judicial Conduct for, quote, a pattern of discourteous, impatient, and undignified behavior. Judge John Woolley would later receive a public reprimand for his ill-tempered courtroom conduct.
Oh, that's not a smart play.
We're in the George Layton Criminal Courthouse in Chicago, Illinois. Judge Joseph Claps strolls through the lobby, as he's done plenty of times over his 20-year career. Only today, he drops something on the floor. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, only the item that Claps drops on the floor is reportedly a loaded satin silver revolver. In Illinois, weapons, even if you're properly licensed, are prohibited inside courthouses, unless you're an officer on duty. Notice how as Claps passes the security desk, he waves hello to a court security officer, and the revolver falls out of his jacket, which is folded over his arm. With people watching, he reaches down to pick it up, stumbles a bit, then casually puts the object in his pants pocket and walks away. When the judge arrives at the elevators, Claps puts the gun back under his coat and continues with his day. But 2 other deputies standing by the doors also took notice when Claps dropped his weapon. While they didn't take immediate action, they later report the incident to a lieutenant. Claps, who did have a valid firearm owner's ID card and a concealed carry license, is charged 3 days later with carrying a concealed weapon in a prohibited area, which is a Class B misdemeanor. The judge was placed on administrative duty and faced up to 6 months in jail and a $2,500 fine if convicted. But just 3 months later, and despite eyewitness testimony from the 2 deputies, he's acquitted of the charge. The court ruled the prosecution had failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the object Claps dropped was actually a firearm.
Oh my God, take me home.
We now go to Brimfield Township, Ohio, where County Judge Rebecca Doherty isn't presiding over her courtroom, she's making demands at the local police station.
Do me a favor and have a seat so we can do our job.
Oh, Larry
I'm not going to call anybody yet, okay? We have stuff we have to do.
I'm going to tell you now to call Lieutenant Lindbergh now.
Have a seat.
Call him
or I'm going to
now.
put you in the cell.
So why is this judge so aggravated? Let's go back earlier in the night.
Hello?
An officer's body camera records as he approaches an SUV that's crashed off the side of a snow-covered road.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not.
What's going on? Ma'am, you've got vomit down here in your door.
300 deal.
Have you been drinking?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have your ID handy?
I'm Becky Doherty. I'm the judge.
Your judge?
To be more specific, she is the county's Common Pleas Court judge, 55-year-old Rebecca Doherty.
Kidding me?
Am I kidding about what?
I am absolutely out of my mind with...
You're intoxicated.
I am so intoxicated.
The officer's body cam continues to record as the judge is escorted into booking.
Oh my God. Take me home. Okay.
Have a seat.
Let me call Lindbergh.
Have a seat.
No.
Rebecca,
Call.
listen. This whole thing is being recorded. Do not do something you are going to regret
Call
tomorrow.
Larry Limbert is actually Major Larry Limbert of the county sheriff's office.
Do me a favor and have a seat so we can do our job.
Call Larry
I'm not going to call anybody yet. Okay, we have stuff we have to do. Will you please have a seat? You're trying to walk out the door and you're almost falling down. Can you please have a seat?
I'm not falling down.
Have a
Call Larry Limbert.
Rebecca, I will put you in one of the cells if you
Okay,
do not. I'm
call
trying
Larry
to really
Limbert now.
Have a seat.
Call him now. Call him now.
And that's not the judge's only request.
What can I do for you?
Drink.
Okay.
Water.
We just literally told you 10 seconds ago that we're getting you a drink of water. He's out front right now getting you the glass.
Not 10 seconds ago. I want a drink of water now. Thank you. Call Larry Limbert.
I tried him. He didn't answer.
Really?
Do you want the water? The water?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Larry Limbert.
Okay.
Larry Limbert. Thank you.
After refusing to take a breathalyzer, Judge Doherty is charged with operating a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol.
Give me my phone so I can make a phone call.
Okay. Your phone is in a puddle of vomit in your car, which is on the side of... Can I finish? Which is on the side of the road that you crashed into.
Yes.
The tow company is out there trying to get it out. However, it is extremely snowy and slippery out. They are not able to get the vehicle out so far. So your phone is off the table right now. We don't have access to it.
Judge Doherty receives a fine of $1,075 and 180 days in jail, which the presiding judge reduces to $375 and 3 days in jail. Her driver's license is suspended for a year, and she's ordered to complete a driver's intervention program.
I will personally see to it that you never see a free day in your life.
Next, we head to family court in Putnam County, West Virginia, for a divorce hearing. The parties are Arthur Haig, a church pastor, and his estranged wife, Lillian. The judge is William Watkins III. At issue is Haig's refusal to sign a deed which would allow his wife to sell their home. But before things get started, Judge Watkins has a stern warning for Haig.
Mr. Haig, if you say one word out of turn, you're going to jail. Do you understand me? Yes or no?
Judge Watkins is angry with Haig because he believes the pastor revealed personal information about him through the media.
After we closed here, you went out there and talked to a reporter. This morning, I now see an article with a picture of my home. My home on the front page. Don't tell you to speak! My wife is disabled. She's there alone. And you disgusting piece of... You put up our picture of my house. I swear to you, I'm holding you personally responsible for anything that happens at my house. I promise you that if I so much as see somebody blanking at my home, my wife, my family, you and me are going to have a problem.
Haig's name was not mentioned in the article, which was about Judge Watson's standing in a local homeowners association. But that doesn't stop him from continuing his attack.
It's disgraceful. Well, buddy, it's personal. And I promise you, you will not hear the end of it from me. You know, when you threaten my family, I will personally see to it that you never see a free day in your life. You understand that? You're going to jail. I swear to God.
Watkins eventually calms down and tries to get back on track.
You swear testimony about to give you the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, self to God.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace, what's the nature of your motion?
Yep. The closing attorney is requiring his signature.
All right, Mr. Haig, what's your response?
My response is I cannot sign this because it's against my conviction.
Watkins rules against Haig and says he must sign the deed and pay a third party to expedite the process.
I'm going to direct it, Mr. Haig. pay him the sum of $500 for his services no later than Friday.
I'll sign it. I don't have that kind of money.
I don't care. You'll find it. It's a damn lie, and you know it's a damn lie.
I cannot.
Shut up! I didn't tell you to talk. Did I tell you to talk? What did I tell you right at the beginning of the hearing? Are you deaf? Huh?
The judge ultimately rules in favor of Lillian Haig and orders the pastor to pay a number of expenses once the house is sold.
Shut up. I didn't ask you to speak.
But Haig has his own response when he files a complaint against Watkins with the Judicial Investigation Commission. Judge Watkins admits to overreacting and recuses himself from the case. But it doesn't end there. It's later determined that Judge Watkins has a history of berating litigants and attorneys.
I don't travel.
Ma'am, I didn't ask you for a speech. I'm not.
Well, I'm not. You know, you say
Hush.
that.
What, you think this is funny? You want to go to jail now?
Sir, I don't.
Then shut up. Take his ass into custody. I'm tired of it.
Watkins' case makes it to the West Virginia Court of Appeals, where he's censured for 24 violations, including his offensive language and failing to complete required tasks like entering protective orders into the state's registry. Watkins is suspended without pay for the remaining 4 years of his term.
Between May and November of 2012, did you engage in sexual conduct with Judge McCree?
Yes, I did.
Numerous times?
Yes.
We're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at a judicial disciplinary hearing for Wayne County Circuit Court Judge Wade McCree. 56-year-old McCree, who's married with 2 children, admitted to an ongoing affair with 31-year-old Janine Lachey Mott, a woman he first met in his courtroom when she appeared as a complaining witness against her son's father in a child support case. But rather than recusing himself from her case after the affair began, Judge McCree stayed on for an additional 6 months and admitted to discussing the case with Mott outside of the courtroom. Mott eventually reported the affair to the local media. And now on the stand, Judge McCree tells the Judicial Commission his interest in Mott began the minute she walked into his courtroom.
I confess she was an attractive, striking woman, and, she caught my eye. Here's a 6-foot tall woman in stiletto heels and, all the bells and whistles, and I am setting her apart from the rank and file that come through the courtroom.
When describing the looks of the typical rank and file of his docket, the judge didn't hold back.
Paragraph 76 of the complaint. You're talking about the docket from hell, filled with tatted up, overweight, half-assed, English-speaking, gap-toothed, slank hoes.
Correct.
3 months after their initial meeting in court, Mott and Judge McCree began a sexual relationship.
I'm a middle-aged man. She was a young woman. She was pretty, and I'll admit I was excited. I don't want to say that the water came to the horse, but I must say she certainly was coming on to me with an ease that surprised me. It thrilled me.
Details of their affair were shared with the court, including that the two engaged in sexual activities in the judge's chambers.
Between May and November of 2012, did you engage in sexual conduct with Judge McCree?
Yes, I did.
Numerous times?
Yes.
At least twice at the Westin Hotel?
Yes.
How about Judge McCree's marital home?
Yes.
But according to McCree, the relationship soured as Mott became more demanding of his time.
If I had a minute, she wanted an hour. If I had an hour, she wanted an afternoon. If I had an afternoon, she wanted an evening. In many of these matters, you got to tell her what she wants to hear, or she continues to sweat you, or sweat me, as was a nice but demanding woman that she was. She always wanted, the next biscuit.
McCree eventually came clean to his wife, and the judge led Mott to believe that he would leave her.
He was not going through with the divorce in terms of getting it finalized, but we were going through the motions as if we were.
In the end, the Judicial Tenure Committee recommended that Judge McCree be removed from the bench and suspended from holding a judgeship for a period of 6 years. The Michigan Supreme Court upheld the recommendation for suspension and also ordered McCree to pay more than $11,000 in court costs. Next, we head to Claremore, Oklahoma, where County Judge Cassie McCoy appears slumped over in her car in a store parking lot. It's around 4 p.m. on Super Bowl Sunday. Officer Nathaniel Turman arrives on the scene and approaches Judge McCoy's vehicle. She seems to be having some window issues.
This one. You feeling okay? What are you on? Somebody called in and said that you drove through the ditch. Looked like you're about half asleep in the driver's seat when I come up here.
Well, that wasn't me, because I was on my way to my boyfriend's house.
You have ID? Okay. You been drinking or anything today?
No, I have not, actually.
Okay. All right, why don't you come back to my car and talk to me back here?
Judge McCoy follows Turman to his vehicle, where he begins checking the judge's information through his computer.
You're on something. What have you taken today?
I didn't take anything.
Are you a drinker?
No.
When's the last time you've been in trouble for alcohol?
I've never had that issue.
Never?
No.
Okay, so January or July of 2008, you didn't get in trouble for alcohol-related offense or anything?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So can we be honest now?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been drinking today?
Yes.
Okay. How much you been drinking today?
I drank champagne.
How much have you had to drink today?
A full bottle of champagne.
A full bottle? Sit tight.
Turman goes to speak with his partner.
You recognize
Who is she?
District Judge?
She's a drinker.
She's a judge.
Full bottle of champagne.
Don't let her position influence what needs to be done. If you need to administer tests, administer tests.
After a few minutes, Officer Turman returns to the car and gets right down to it.
You have a drinking problem? You do? You understand what kind of position this puts me in? I think you very well understand it because of what you do for a living. I had no clue who you were. My partner knows who you are.
What I want you to do is I want you to do the right thing.
The officers ask Judge McCoy to exit the car and complete a field sobriety test.
Without turning your head, I want you to follow my finger with your eyes and your eyes only, okay? Do you understand? Okay.
Yep.
Don't turn your head. Keep your head straight.
Sorry.
The test actually causes her to stumble.
Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Officer Turman's seen enough.
No. You're under. Don't make this more difficult than it already is. You're under arrest for actual physical control of a motor vehicle while you're under the influence of alcohol.
Sorry.
Just sit right here, okay? You're going to jail.
The judge is taken back to the station where she agrees to take a breathalyzer test. McCoy's blood alcohol level comes back at 0.35, which is 4 times the legal limit. Because officers didn't witness her actually driving, she's booked on a misdemeanor charge of being in control of a vehicle while intoxicated. The judge is later released on bond and issued a statement saying she's embarrassed by the incident and intends to get professional help. Judge McCoy is also temporarily relieved of her duties.
I have not had a drink since January 31st, 2019.
We're in Columbus, Ohio, where 54-year-old Monica Hawkins is on the stand. It's a peculiar position for her because most days she's on the other side of the bench as a family court judge. So what landed this judge in the hot seat? 1 year earlier, police pulled over this vehicle after receiving a 911 call reporting an erratic driver. The driver was Judge Monica Hawkins. After officers noticed the smell of alcohol coming from the car, Hawkins is asked to perform a variety of field sobriety tests. They don't go so well. It looks like this judge is going to jail. At the police station, Hawkins remains cool and collected. She can be heard humming a tune. When it's time to actually face the music, the judge refuses to cooperate.
So what I'm going to ask is that you provide a breath sample, okay? And if you refuse, then your Ohio driver's license will automatically be suspended. Okay. Okay, so are you willing to provide a breath sample? No. No, so you're going to refuse? Yes. Okay, so you do understand that you will immediately be placed under suspension for that? Yes. Okay. If we get a warrant for your blood draw, then you can't refuse. Mm-hmm. So, you're still willing to refuse? Yes, ma'am. Even if we get a blood draw? You understand that we'll take you to the hospital and they will draw your blood? Mm-hmm. And that's something that you'd rather do than provide a breath sample? Yep. Okay. I'll start them.
After a warrant is issued, Hawkins is taken to the hospital where she has to be restrained in order to have her blood drawn. Her blood alcohol level registers at 0.199, nearly 2.5 times the legal limit. Judge Hawkins would later plead guilty to a misdemeanor for driving under the influence, and she was sentenced to 90 days in jail, with 87 of those suspended. In addition to Hawkins' legal conviction, a judicial misconduct complaint was filed requiring her to go in front of the Ohio Board of Professional Conduct. And this time, Judge Hawkins adopts a much more humbling and cooperative approach.
I've spent my whole life trying to do the next best thing and be the perfect person. I have not had a drink since January 31st, 2019.
So you're telling the panel you've been sober since the date of the incident?
Yes, I have been sober. All I can do is forgive myself and move forward, be the best judge I can be.
Hawkins received a public reprimand, but because her charge was a misdemeanor and not a felony, she's allowed to keep her job. Now to the Clark County Superior Court in Vancouver, Washington.
I'm scared of him.
Judge John Woolley is ruling on a woman's petition for a restraining order against the father of one of her children, 51-year-old Alexander Adzagiri. The defendant maintains that he isn't even the child's father.
He took me to court already 6 times for paternity test, what we already did, but he's still harassing me. He's telling me to refuse from child support. If not, he will make problems for me.
Paternity testing's been done.
Yes, it's proved it's his, but he's still refusing to believe it.
The defendant disputes the findings of a completed DNA test using his saliva. Through a Russian translator, he insists on a blood test instead to determine paternity.
5 times I requested for the blood test and she didn't allow that.
5 times.
You are the father of the child. The saliva test is a DNA test which scientifically proves you to be the father. 2, a legal action was instituted and a formal court order has been established. You are the child's father, period.
But this defendant isn't giving up his cause so easily.
Почему вы не хотите дать мне блуд-тест, который подтвердит, что я не являюсь отцом?
Why don't you want to allow me
Это говорит о том, что...
to provide a blood test to prove that I am not your father?
You are the father. Sir, a blood test is an antiquated test. We don't use those anymore. That was 20 years ago.
Отказывал мне в сдаче крови, потому что она знает, если я сдам тест на кровь, и тест покажет, что я не являюсь отцом ребенка, ее надо дисквалифицировать как судью.
Sir, this is not the Soviet Union. This is the United States of America. We use the best and latest technologies to determine parentage of children.
Я смотрел в Европе на интернете, я не говорю Советский Союз, я говорю Европу на интернете. Many countries in Europe.
I'm not talking about former Soviet Union. I checked what the people or the people in Europe use, and they use blood.
This is not Europe. Okay, I'm done. Your order is granted. You're out of here.
Thank you.
It looks like an open and shut case until the judge decides to take a dig at the defendant.
I suggest you watch some CSI TV shows.
The courtroom laughter appears to further incite the defendant. He turns around to address Judge Woolley directly.
Обман в Америке происходит в тот момент, когда меня блокируют. В Советском Союзе никто бы не блокировал сдать блад-тест на проверку крови. Меня обманывают судьи американские, меня обманывает закон. Закон за меня. Меня пытаются обмануть.
You are in contempt of court. You are under arrest.
Вас сейчас арестуют за то, что
Get me security. Now.
Я говорю правду. Я говорю правду.
Sir, you are in contempt of this court. You are going into custody for 2 days.
Adzageri is promptly hauled off to jail. While the judge apologizes to those in attendance for his strong reaction, his response to this case and others is noticed and earns him a reprimand from the Washington State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Thanks for being a fan of CourtCam. Subscribe to A&E to never miss a new video and catch full episodes on aetv.com.